Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to David Trigg Show and Ghost of TV, the Trigg podcast of Joy. How are you guys? I hope that you're doing awesome on this beautiful Monday evening. Today, I just want to talk to you about why your story is the most important thing that you have to offer anyone else. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, one of the people that I work with, and she was telling me that her story just isn't very valuable. She's always struggled to see how her unique life, being that it hasn't been some coming out of drugs or maybe dropping out of school or whatever, how her story can actually be used to accomplish her dreams. And so I was walking her through some steps that I want to walk you through in case you also wonder what's so unique about your story. And especially if you're somebody who wants to sell a product, create a service, maybe build an organization or a nonprofit, or just simply wanting to be a speaker, maybe write a book, start a blog, but you don't know exactly what to write about. One of the things that people always tell me is, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to write about if you're going to be maybe helping other people. So I want to walk you through a couple of slides that I have here that hopefully you can see pretty well. Let me see if I can just get everything in the right place. So let's see here. Let me just get everything in the right place. I think this particular slideshow, let me just see here where we're at with this slideshow. Let's see here. All right, there it is. Just give me a second, everybody. Let me just get to the right place here in my computer. Let's see. Okay, there it is. So I call it the ACL Experience, how to live your adventure for the rest of your life. So these are the things that I often talk to people about, that I help them so they know how their story is unique and how they can actually experience the adventure that they want to live on. And so I call this the ACL Experience, and ACL stands for Adventure, Crisis, and Love. Adventure, Crisis, and Love. Every one of us has experienced crises, right? We've been through those tough times. Every one of us wants to live an adventure. We want to do something great with our lives. We want to help somebody else. We want to build a business. We want to help at the church or volunteer or play in a band, do something significant. And all of us also love things, people, God. We love our families. We love the people that we work with. We want to learn how to love more people. And so these are some of the things that I want to walk you through. How do you do that? So number one, the first step that I recommend in terms of learning how to tell your story or kind of what to do is, first of all, is to realize that your story is valuable. Build everything you do around your story. Now, what do I mean by your story? What I mean by your story is your life, where you were born, what you went through, the challenges, the ups and downs, the good and the bad. Every one of us has a story. And yet a lot of people, as I mentioned, don't feel that their story is anything to write home about. They may have a pretty boring life, or they may have a lot of problems that they would rather not talk about. But the second thing that's so important is that those crises, those things that you think are very difficult that you've been through in your life, they actually are things that won't destroy you. Instead, your crises, they humanize you and they give you the courage to persevere. Have you noticed how when you are able to process or to even talk about those tough times, what happens? You are then able to help other people. It gives you perspective. It gives you the perseverance to continue. And then lastly, your adventure plus your crisis is what will help you discover your love or what you love. In other words, when you start with your adventure, with that childlike dream that you had when you were a young person, plus the crises of your life, the things that you've been through, that together will help you discover what you love. In other words, your purpose in life. And that's the thing that everyone wants, right? We all want to know what our purpose is. It's the same thing. So that's why I call it A plus C equals L. Adventure plus crisis equals love. So if you want to know how your unique story is worth telling, you have to get comfortable talking about what you want, your adventure, the crises in your life, that's C, the things that haven't been perfect in your life, and then together, A plus C, that equals what you love. Now, how will the ACL Experience help you? So in other words, this program that I have called the ACL Experience, how will this help you accomplish your dreams? Well, number one is we first start by talking about your adventure or your story. In other words, every one of us, as I said, has a story to tell. But I find that a lot of people don't know how to tell their story. They might either only include the positive things, or they may be ashamed perhaps of their difficult times. I mean, most of us aren't comfortable, especially the older that we get. We're not comfortable talking about the hard times. Or maybe we only bring in those things that are safe. We don't really talk about the things that are difficult because they're embarrassing, or we have a hard time talking about them. We don't even know how to talk about them. But that's very important, is to write your story in a way that is compelling, that will attract your unique tribe. What I mean by tribe are the people that are going to connect with you. Number two is you have to also know about marketing. How will you then market or tell your story? So it's not just enough to simply have a story, which is huge. Then you need to learn how to actually get your message across, which is simply what marketing is. How do you get your message across so that other people can connect with who you are? And how to then market your story or tell your story in a way that is compelling to people. Compelling means that they are attracted to you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to learn more from you. And then lastly, is speaking of learning, is how do you then monetize your story? How do you then create products and services that will make you financially free? So whatever your story is very important that you get clear on what it is so that you're able to actually tell that story, be able to then be convincing about it, and then create products, services, client relationships so that you can then create the kind of financial freedom that you want for whatever you need it for. Now, let me actually walk you through the process of my own story so that you can begin to see how I create or what I do with people to help them shape their lives or their story, as we call it. You know, back in the church, we used to call it testimonies, right? So basically just think of that as your story. It's the same thing. How do you tell your story in a way that will help other people connect with you in whatever you're doing, whether you're working in an office, volunteering, helping your husband, in whatever thing, whatever purpose that you have, telling your unique story is going to help you connect with people. So let me walk you through what a story would look like. Number one, as I said, you have to start with your adventure. So for me, it's very easy. I grew up a young man who loved music. So I remember growing up always being in love with guitars, with singing. My father used to sing. He recorded records. I still have his music in my house to this day. So my adventure, you could say, has always been to do music, to create. Now, what's the crisis? So I want to walk you through how I put my story together so that you can do the same. So first you want to start with your adventure, right? Now, second, you want to start with your crisis. What's the thing in your life that wasn't perfect? So for me, it was growing up in a war. As you know, I went through, when I was 10, 11, 12, I went through a major war that separated me from my family, that later in life cost me a lot of separation. And I didn't always know what to do with that. But that war wasn't just something that I went through. It had a purpose. But that crisis that I experienced, I had to understand what it means. Why is it there? And so for you, you want to do the same. You want to think about what are the things in your life that aren't perfect when you were maybe in your teens or maybe in your 40s or maybe even in your 50s or 60s. What are the things in your life that didn't go as planned? And the thing with your crisis is not just simply to say, well, here's what happened, but to, as I say, what was a silver lining in your crisis? So for example, for me, even though I grew up far from my parents, the silver lining was that I was able to meet God in a totally different way than when I was a young person. The last step is to then discover what you love, your purpose, your passion. Have you heard people say that they have a passion for life? Now, let me ask you another question. Have you heard a lot of people say that they do not know what their passion is or what their purpose in life is? Or maybe they don't even think about that anymore. They're just simply living life for whatever it is, right? They're just doing the same old thing, going to work or going to church, but they don't really have a sense of purpose or passion. This third step that I'm talking about now, the first step was adventure, second step was crisis, third step is love. The third step, love, ACL, it's going to help you discover your purpose. Or if you are already in your 40s, 50s, 60s, to align, to continue to persevere in your purpose so that you don't give up. Now, how do you then remain true to your purpose if you already know what your purpose is? Well, you have to always go back to your story, what I call the adventure. Then you have to go back to your crisis. How the crisis of your life, whether it was in your marriage, maybe it was a church crisis, maybe it was something in your body physically, maybe something that your parents went through or that you yourself have gone through physically or emotionally. You have to understand or think about, how did that crisis get resolved? What were the lessons learned from that crisis? And then lastly, when you add up A plus C, in other words, your adventure plus the crises, that gives you your purpose, your passion, what you love, what you are here on this earth to accomplish. And when we are clear on that, then you're able to go back to that story every day. When you feel discouraged, when you feel like giving up, when you don't see the results in your family or your parents that you want, when you don't see your purpose being lived out, right? Because we all want to lose weight. We all want to have a great family. We all want to have more money. And yet that doesn't always happen. So when you experience those difficulties, that's when you want to go back to your story, to your purpose, to your passion, so that you don't lose heart. Thanks so much, guys.